I guess I could start by saying good afternoon. To speak in an auspice like this, again, reminds me of a part of my childhood. But a part of my childhood which I felt when I entered institutions such as this, I felt lost, completely lost. I sat in the pew, I listened, I sang, because everybody else was singing and they call out the number to sing. Most of the time I couldn't follow the notes anyhow. And then I would look and see who wrote this song. And it was always somebody from Germany or from England, Ireland, Scotland or something. And I always wondered, can anybody looking like me write? And can anyone have their songs sung on Sundays? I never could find out why for quite a long time. I find myself, as I got older, feeling much lonelier. Because when they pass along the track, in my days they used to call it track, I don't know if they call it that now, little pictures for the little kids, they would give us, to make us nice kids if we followed the little track. But I knew I wasn't going to be nice because I wasn't on any of those tracks. I looked for me. I was looking for one of my cousins who had made it as an angel. And you know, to be angelic was the thing that they were always saying in church. You know, you have to be, especially if you die suddenly as a little kid, you want to be one of the little angels. But I realized that I wasn't going to be much of an angel because I hadn't seen none looking like me. I looked very well, so I know there weren't any like me. And I said, well, why should I try to go to heaven when they ain't going to be, I can't even get to be an angel. But I figured maybe if I grew up, came a man, by that time, there'd probably be some angels looking like me. And then I went down the list of angels, Michael and all those fellows, and I said, I kept looking and turning the page, and instead of getting a little brown, they got lighter and lighter until the angels got blonde. And I said, you mean I'm not going to get a chance either? And so as I became a man and backslid, in my days they call it, you backslid from the church and so forth, I backslid and still didn't see something outside the church, no inside the church. And that probably caused me to do some investigation. You see, I had seen somewhere, and I can't remember where, but I saw somewhere where Jesus was sent or was carried by his mother and the advice of good counsel to take him into the land of Egypt. It seems as if somebody named Herod was looking for him and was going to do him in, and the mother thought it was best to go into the land of Egypt. So I did some research of the land of Egypt 1990 years ago. And I found that the land of Egypt, you see, I had to look carefully, was located in Africa. In my youth, no one told me the land of Egypt was in Africa. To the contrary, I didn't believe it could possibly be in Africa because all the pictures I had seen, especially Tarzan, I knew what was in Africa. They had spears, and some of them who had clothes was just a little thing like what most of the ladies are wearing in Harlem now, practically nothing. So I realized that it would be easy to run down the situation. But I looked again and examined all of the records. I felt that church records would help me locate Jesus in Africa. And I didn't find a single piece of church literature mentioning the word Africa. I found a number of them mentioning Egypt, but when they showed the Egyptians, again, I couldn't find myself. And then I found some literature mentioning Ethiopia, Now I knew I felt good, because at least that was not on the coast of the Mediterranean. It's further south, as we said, more down home. And I felt happy when I saw it. But then I noticed that all the Ethiopians also looked like people from France, and I don't mean visitors to France, I mean native Frenchmen and Romans and Greeks and others. And I said, even here, I can't find me. And I thought, well, okay. I had read someplace about bronze, and somebody being bronze and had nappy hair like wool, like lambs and so forth. So I thought that has some kind of a resemblance in a roundabout way, like me. And I felt a little hopeful. So I continued to read again and disappeared at the Nicene Conference. So I made, by the time I started to write for myself and to try to show other folks who we are, I thought it was best to go back again and do some examination on historical biblical figures. And one came in mind particularly, and that would be Jesus. In this scope of affair, I had become aware of maps. And in particular, the map of Africa, being an African myself, like all of you, or if not most of you. And in my search, I questioned if Mary and Joseph were sent to hide little Jesus in Africa among his people. And the Roman soldiers had come, all of them that they could muster, of course, like Bush trying to muster all kind of soldiers to go to somebody else's land over there. I said, well, if they're mustering Roman soldiers to come into Africa, understanding that Egypt is in Africa now, according to my map, I expected to see Europeans coming in with fixed bayonets and whatnot to catch this little black-skinned boy. Well, I have to picture that in my mind. If you heard that somebody was going to hide a little boy in Harlem, by virtue of what he looked, you would know automatically that that's a little black child. Because they're going to hide him in Harlem, and he's supposed to be able to be camouflaged by virtue of the amount of people in there. You're not going to expect to go hide a little blonde little boy in Harlem, and nobody will ever see him and detect him. It wouldn't be logical thinking, would it? So when I heard that Mary and Joseph was going to hide their little son in Egypt, in Africa, I knew I had found the answer. Just like you would understand that I had found the answer. But then I went to churches in Harlem, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and all those places, and look up on the wall, and I knew I would see the person that I had become familiar with.